technology improved, humankind's methods of communication have also evolved, becoming more instantaneous as well as influential towards culture globally. Though has it been for the better or worse? In the very beginning of human history, if people wanted to communicate, they had to do it face-to-face. Not all face-to-face communication was verbal, of course. Non-verbal communication was equally important, such as eye contact, gestures, facial expressions, and even how one dresses relates to the intent of a message. Intentional movements like shaking a hand or winking, and involuntary actions such as sweating, both add connotative meaning to a conversation. Non-verbal elements are also present in speech, known as paralanguage. The rhythm, intonation, tempo, and stress of a conversation are all components of face-to-face communication. Research suggests that up to 38% of human communication occurs through paralanguage, and 55% occurs through non-verbal facial expressions.
Face-to-face communication is one of the basic and necessary elements of the social system. It is a substantial part of individual socialization. It was historically more widespread than mediated communication. Even though technology such as paper was invented, the majority of the world's population was not literate enough to use it every day until printed texts became more commonplace with the help of inventions such as the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. Face-to-face communication is still widely regarded as the gold standard of communication because it engages more human senses compared to mediated communication and is regarded as most efficient and informational.
When face-to-face communication was the only available method of conversation, civilizations that spanned hundreds of thousands of miles had to develop systems for message delivering. The Incan Empire, which lacked a written language, relied mainly on quipos, or talking knots, for communication and recording information. Running messengers usually carried the knots that recorded the message with them, and then they traversed the difficult terrain of the large Incan Empire by foot, and sometimes by boat to deliver the message. This exhausting method of communication caused increasing difficulty in the effective administration of the Incan Empire as the empire expanded. Some historians cite the inefficient method of communication as a contributing factor to the Incas' swift fall to the Spanish conquistadors.
You can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The first writing systems were not created suddenly. They were gradual processes based on the appearances of symbols that had characteristics of writing but not technically proper writing. The early symbols are described as proto-writing, and they used ideographic and/or mnemonic symbols to convey information that did not contain natural language. Examples such as the Jiahu symbols emerged as early as 7000 BC in China in the form of writing-like markings found on tortoise shells. The Vinca symbols and the Despilio tablet are other early attempts at writing found during the Neolithic Age. Most cultures go through an intermediate stage of proto-writing before proper writing evolved. The Slavic runes from 7000 and 8000 AD, as well as the Quipu or talking knots of the Incas, are more recent examples of proto-writing. The Bronze Age saw the independent emergence of several writing systems, such as the Sumerian cuneiform, Cretan hieroglyphics, Egyptian hieroglyphics, the Olmec script of Mesoamerica, and the Chinese logographs. Most other alphabets in the world today are either descended from these parent systems or were directly inspired by their designs. It was the invention of paper that enabled mass communication and the exchange of information quickly and effectively. In ancient Egypt, papyrus was used for documents and early books. In China, the pulp paper-making process created the oldest known archaeological fragments of the immediate precursor to modern paper.
How dare you? You've been promoting paper this whole time? Papyrus is clearly the way to go. What do you mean? Paper is clearly superior. You want to go?
Yeah, see what happens.
You know there's only one way to settle this.
Rap battle. Right here, right now.
You're on. been around since the Egyptians around 3000 BC, and you're trying to say that you're better than me? On me is written all kinds of binding pledges while you're going around and cutting people with your edges. The way you're made, it makes me so upset. It's like you're cutting down trees every chance you can get. So stark, white, and flat, showing youth with every page. Honey, get out of the way and go in at your age. You think you're better? You want to fight? Or how about a medium that's flat and white? I don't have any ridges that are hard to write. Come at me, papyrus, I'm as high as a kite. Better get ready to follow, I'm setting the pace. You might think you're a rustic, but that's not the case. What, you're scared that I'm getting in your face? Better move up a papyrus, you're about to get replaced.
First produced in China over 2,000 years ago, paper quickly replaced older writing surfaces and spread in a westerly direction towards present-day Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and then Europe. The development and movement of paper has been essential to the culture of humankind. For example, paper was essential to storing religious texts, be they Buddhist, the Bible, or the Quran. Paper has been crucial to the Protestant Reformation, the French Revolution, and has shaped humanity into what it is today. When humans had paper and written language but needed faster message delivering, they have used animals. Ever since the domestication of horses around 4000 BC, they've been used by the human race for transportation, communication, war, and entertainment. For the past 5,000 years, humans have used horses for the purpose of war. 8 million horses died in World War I. Also during World War I, pigeons were used. They were the only means of communication for some advanced observation posts where terrain or proximity to enemy lines made it impossible to string wire or use radios. During World War II, the United Kingdom used about 250,000 homing pigeons. Birds played a vital part in the invasion of Normandy as radios could not be used for fear of vital information being intercepted by the enemy.
Vital information is hastily written out for dispatch to the outpost position to the rear.
Trained dogs were also very vital to war. They were used as messengers because they were faster than humans, presented a smaller target to enemy snipers, and could speed muddy roads and dirt paths that were impassable to vehicles. A military dog training school was established in Scotland during World War I. One graduate of the school reportedly delivered a message across 3 miles of battle-scarred terrain when all other means of communication failed. In the 1830s, Samuel Morse overheard a conversation about the newfound theory of electromagnetism while sailing from Europe back to the US. Using the theory, he set about creating a device called a telegraph. He and his colleagues, Leonard Gale and Alfred Vail, eventually made a system that involved pushing an operator key to complete an electric circuit. The operator key could be used to send electric signals as a message. Morse and Vail developed a code that could be used with a new device, which Morse inclusively named Morse code. In 1844, Morse sent the first message to Vail using a wire that stretched from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. It read, "What hath God wrought?"
That was a very good question. What exactly had God wrought? Although the device became very popular, it was one of the shortest-lived successes of the Industrial Revolution.
Samuel Morse died in 1872 and luckily did not live to see another invention bypass his own, the telephone.
And it was as if the death of Samuel Morse was directly related to the death of his own invention. Now, to be fair, the telegraph wasn't entirely useless after the telephone was invented. It was most commonly used by the Allies during the World Wars. The device was silent and could transmit messages without as many cords. In the Postal Service, it was an alternative to letters, especially during the war, allowing the Army to send civilian families telegraphs. But the telephone was faster, more direct, and easier to use, and became far more widespread.
In the 1870s, Alexander Graham Bell became fascinated by the telegraph and wanted to make an auditory version that could transmit sound. He noticed that the telegraph still required someone to go between the messenger and the receiver and attempted to make a machine for more direct communication. With help from Thomas Watson, Bell created the telephone, patenting the device on March 7, 1876. Although it took decades for the telephone to become common, it still dominates the world as one of the main forms of communication.
You're listening to Asian Nation Radio Station. Today we'll be talking about radios. In 1888, Heinrich Rudolf Hertz became the first person to be able to transmit electromagnetic waves through the air, referred to as Hertzian waves, and later called radio waves. Others proposed that Hertzian waves could be used as navigation aids or means of communication. In 1894, the young Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi began working on the idea of building a commercial wireless telegraph system based on the use of Hertzian waves. By August 1885, Marconi was field testing his experiment, eventually inventing the radio.
The radio helped people get information on the spot and be up to date with current events all over the globe. It changed the pace at which information was exchanged. The news could be mass delivered almost simultaneously with its occurrence. The radio was also used as a source of entertainment with radio shows and music.
Thank you for listening to Asian Nation Radio Station.
Television is used similarly to the radio. News could be shared through the screen, but instead of just hearing it, you could see it. The television is also a large form of entertainment, with TV shows on different topics as well as news stories and channels that just play music. The internet is an integral part of our society. People of all ages have experienced the internet at some point in their lifetime, whether they're looking at websites, searching for information, or communicating via social media. It's difficult to imagine life without the efficient and omniscient internet. In 1962, MIT's J.C.R. Licklider discussed the concept of a galactical network, envisioning globally connected computers that were able to access data and various programs from anywhere. Licklider later headed the computer research group DARPA that same year. In 1965, MIT researchers Lawrence G. Roberts and Thomas Merrill were able to connect two computers on opposite sides of the country. A year later, Roberts worked with DARPA and the U.S. Department of Defense to create the ARPANET, a worldwide computer network connection. The ARPANET was created with the intention of fast communication if nuclear war ever took place. In 1972, ARPANET was introduced to a large public audience, including the unveiling of a new tool, email, a fast form of communication invented by Ray Tomlinson. January 1, 1983 is often considered the birth date of the internet, when various local networks connected into one main network and the ARPANET creators switched to the internet standard. In 1991, the World Wide Web was released, and the internet became public, soaring in popularity within a few years. Today, the internet still experiences staggering growth as more people share information via websites and social media.
The 5 main steps for the best speed dating ever. Step 1. Look your best, since you're only going to have about 20 seconds with them anyway. Step 2. Make a good first impression, because it's really the only one you're going to get with this guy. Step 3. Be straight and to the point, because you never know when you're going to get cut off. Step 4.
I am feeling excited today. My relationship status is now in a relationship. I would love to tell you how sexy you are, but then all my coworkers and family members would see.
On my first date, hashtag nervous, hashtag be you, hashtag speed dating, hashtag love at first sight, hashtag YOLO, hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Just a second, I need to post this. What should my caption be? Oh, I know! Beautiful soup so rich and green, waiting in a hot tureen. Hashtag all natural.
Empty chairs at empty tables, where my friends will meet no more.
This chair is offensive. Showing me a picture of your dog is offensive. What if I had a dog that died? You know there's so many people in the world today who don't have dogs. That would be so offensive to them.
OMG, did you see that? I bet I can make that in my house. I need it. I can make it with Mod Podge and wild red oak bark.
Hello! How are you? Hello! How are you? Hello!
Here's my dating resume. Last year, I dated a total of 3 people, and each of those relationships fell apart because of my confidence, my tendency to overanalyze, and my love for detail. If those sound like attractive qualities to you, please connect with me.
In your opinion, how effective are these dating websites?
Much of online dating is based on the misconception that the information in a profile is in any way useful towards determining whether or not a person would make a good match. Online dating basically reduces 3-dimensional people to 2-dimensional tidbits of information. Essentially, when you say, I want a blonde who loves Faulkner and blah blah blah, you're treating a human being like a product.
But what about dating services that don't rely on extensive profiles? So like, say, Tinder.
Tinder is interesting in that out of all the dating services, it mimics real life the most. Swipe apps like Tinder are mostly criticized for being shallow because how many matches you have depends on how many people like your face. But in real life, if you walk into a party, most of the time, all you have to go by is people's faces. Dating services really should be called introducing services. They enable you to go out and meet the person yourself. Online dating is just a method to meet people you otherwise wouldn't.
I'm sure that makes a lot of millennials and post-millennials uncomfortable.
For sure, people are feeling less and less comfortable communicating through mediums other than text. Social psychologists have proposed that young people are so used to text-based communication, which allows them to gather their thoughts and find the best possible way to convey their message. They are forgetting how to have spontaneous conversation. Our decision-making skills have also been impacted by this technology and information-heavy world. In the history of humankind, no group has ever had as many romantic options as we have now.
How does this increase in options affect our ability to commit?
Well, if we are creating a fantasy person who meets all of our requirements, doesn't the vast potential of the internet give the illusion that it is entirely possible to find this fantasy person? It's a recipe for complete misery.
I would join Match.com because I'm looking for love.
You get to meet cool people, right? Yeah.
I get to match with people.
I was really desperate.
My mom wants me to take home a woman.
I am lonely and sad, and I am a pathetic human being.
Because thirsty app.
I love it. An amazing service.
Match.com. More dates, more relationships, and more marriages than any other site.
I'm a wonderful person and everyone wants to meet me.
Start for free today.
Smartphones have become the pinnacle of communication, allowing users to receive calls, text, and check their email. The ubiquitous cell phone is no longer just a phone. For most people, a cell phone is the world in the palm of their hand. Smartphones have become the leading technology in communication, serving as a phone, computer, and entertainment. Many people rely on smartphones for everything they do and become lost without them. Critics of the smartphone and the smartphone culture love to point out the inescapable connectivity via smartphones and how the internet fragments our attention, stresses us out, and compromises our quality of life.
According to the Pew Research Center, in 2014, 90% of American adults have cell phones. 64% of adults have smartphones, a significant increase from 2011. When only 35% of adults have smartphones, 67% of cell owners found they were checking their phones despite not hearing the phone ring or feel the phone vibrate. 44% of cell owners have slept with their phone next to their bed so they could make sure they didn't miss any calls, messages, or other updates during the night. 29% of cell owners say they can't imagine living without their phones.
Studies have shown that people shouldn't dine together with their devices out because the phones create a background anxiety that the other person's phone is going to be more interesting than the conversation. It activates a center in the brain for social rejection and is really socially harmful. Although smartphones definitely make communication, especially long distance, easier, the amount of attractions packed into one handheld device also becomes concerningly addictive. Although few would say they prefer the laborious delivery methods of previous centuries, there are less than desirable ways that modern social media affects society. As a platform, it can amplify and spread negative and discriminatory opinions. It has elevated society's expectations for romance and distorted interpersonal interactions. After the ease of typing words into a message box, face-to-face communication, or even calling, is anxiety-inducing for many. But the internet is still beautiful. It allows communities of people to form, to rally behind causes, and have discussions about issues they care about. The internet is a support system, capable of helping in all areas. People can find study guides for classical literature, videos explaining taxes, and a WikiHow page on practically every subject. From running messengers to the widespread use of paper to the early telegraph to the internet age, how people communicate has always shaped culture. The modern global world of the 21st century as we know it today would not look like this if it were not for the innovations made in the field of communications.
Communication. Show the camera what you're holding.
This can be booked.
And this is a stapler!
You're so pig. And I also spelled pig wrong and then corrected it.
Hit me with your bench.
Fight me. 1v1.
Carrie, check your phone. Alon, check your phone. Justin, check your phone.
Affect our ability to commit.
Not vertical filming. Vertical filming is a sin.
It's a leaf blower. It interrupted our interview. Now we can't do it.
Wait.
Why? Wrong way!
Where should my hands be? I don't want to be my hands all now because that's too weird.
Just do it! Put your hands on Natalie.
Look like you're about to get replaced.
It was that way. It was a good effort.